This is Don Lemon tonight. What a day. What a day. It's so much worse than we thought. Now think about that for a minute. It's worse than what we saw with our own eyes and heard with our own ears. You wouldn't think that was even possible, right? But today we heard the absolutely shocking details of all the behavior of the President of the United States on January 6th. And we heard from Cassidy Hutchinson. She's a 26-year-old former top aide to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. I'm going to play a lot of what she had to say right now because I think it's important. If you didn't see it, if you think someone should see it, call them and let them know because we're going to play it for you. And I think it's important for the country to see, for the world to see. I want you to listen to every single word she had to say because it is like nothing we have ever heard before about an American president insisting on joining his supporters headed to the Capitol. Supporters, by the way, armed with knives, guns, spears, and flagpoles.
I think the last time we talked, you mentioned that some of the weapons that people had at the rally included flagpoles, oversized sticks or flagpoles, bear spray. Is there anything else that you recall hearing about that the people who would gather on the ellipse had?
I recall Tony and I having a conversation with Mark probably around 10 a.m., 10:15 a.m., where I remember Tony mentioning knives, guns in the form of pistols and rifles, bear spray, body armor, spears, and flagpoles. Spears were one item, flagpoles were one item, and then Tony had relayed to me something to the effect of, and these effing people are fastening spears onto the ends of flagpoles.
So this was a president who knew the danger. He knew his supporters were armed. He wanted people coming in with weapons, saying that he wanted the magnetometers, or the mags as they're called, taken away because he knew his supporters weren't there to hurt him. And because he was afraid the crowd would be smaller if they had to go through metal detectors.
The president apparently wanted all attendees inside the official rally space and repeatedly said, quote, "They're not here to hurt me."
And just to be clear, so he was told again in that conversation, or was he told again in that conversation that people couldn't come through the mags because they had weapons?
Correct.
And that people, and his response was to say they can march to the Capitol from the ellipse.
Something to the effect of, take the effing mags away, they're not here to hurt me, let them in, let my people in. They can march to the Capitol after the rally's over. They can march from the ellipse. Take the effing mags away. Then they can march to the Capitol.
Just to be clear, did you hear what the then president said? They're not here to hurt me. So ask yourself this question. If he was so sure about who they were there to hurt, why was he so sure about that? Cassidy Hutchinson also detailing what she says the then Deputy White House Chief of Staff told her happened in the presidential limo on January 6th, when Donald Trump was told by security that he couldn't go to the Capitol because it wasn't safe. Testifying under oath, she was told the President of the United States flew into a rage and tried to take the wheel of the limo, lunging at his own Secret Service agent.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel. And when Mr. Ornato had recounted this story to me, he had motioned towards his clavicles.
And was Mr. Engel in the room as Mr. Ornato told you this story?
He was.
Did Mr. Engel correct or disagree with any part of this story from Mr. Ornato?
Mr. Engel did not correct or disagree with any part of the story.
Did Mr. Engel or Mr. Ornato ever after that tell you that what Mr. Ornato had just said was untrue?
Neither Mr. Ornato nor Mr. Engel told me ever that it was untrue.
And we have some news that's just in tonight. A Secret Service official is telling CNN that Tony Ornato, the then Deputy White House Chief of Staff, is now denying telling Cassidy Hutchinson that the then president grabbed the steering wheel or an agent on his detail. We're going to have more to come on that, so make sure you stay tuned. But on the morning of January 6th, Cassidy Hutchinson spoke to the then White House counsel, Pat Cipollone. Listen.
And Mr. Cipollone said something to the effect of, please make sure we don't go up to the Capitol, Cassidy. Keep in touch with me. We're going to get charged with every crime imaginable if we make that movement happen.
And do you remember which crimes Mr. Cipollone was concerned with?
In the days leading up to the 6th, we had conversations about potentially obstructing justice or defrauding the electoral count.
Chairman Benny Thompson telling CNN the committee will seriously consider inviting Cipollone for what he calls a transcribed interview or something like that, and now we know why. But there are plenty of people who know what happened in the Trump White House, who simply just aren't talking. Liz Cheney suggesting today that the committee has evidence of witness tampering, saying one unidentified witness has told them this.
Well, what they said to me is as long as I continue to be a team player, they know I'm on the right team. I'm doing the right thing. I'm protecting who I need to protect. You know I'll continue to stay in good graces in Trump world. And they have reminded me a couple of times that Trump does read transcripts.
Here to talk about all of this, CNN's Dana Bash, our chief political correspondent, Andrew